CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 20. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow -2. In Smith Falls, that is -3. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The Snowsuit Fund 50/50 has come to a successful close this morning. The total cash raised in the campaign was over $1,001,000. The lucky jackpot winner is Judy Bond from Nepean, who is now $500,000 richer. The other half of the proceeds will be used to buy snowsuits for kids in the Ottawa area who are in need of one this winter. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Periods of light snow continue for this afternoon, tapering off later on this evening, a few flurries. We're not looking at too much more in terms of accumulation, but another few centimeters possible. So just take your time out on the roads. Overnight, mostly cloudy, slight chance of flurries for Saturday and early Sunday. For the most part, it's a quiet day tomorrow with periods of snow moving in late Sunday night and through early Monday morning. The guaranteed high for today, -3.
The Trudeau government and the provinces are reportedly close to a deal aimed at easing the healthcare crisis that has seen overcrowded hospitals, long ER wait times, and a shortage of doctors and nurses. City News reporter Kevin Meisner joins us from Queen's Park with the latest.
Sources in Ottawa say the Trudeau government is willing to boost overall funding and then strike bilateral deals for additional cash for provinces willing to expand mental health and long-term care. The deal is hinged on the provinces being accountable to the feds for the healthcare spending. Premier Doug Ford says he can live with that.
That's the least of our issues. Do we want a little bit of flexibility? Yeah, and I think they're willing to do that because sometimes you need to shift funds as long as it's transparent.
The Toronto Star and Globe report a First Minister's meeting could be held to finalize the deal in the days after next week's federal cabinet retreat. No word on exact figures, but right now the federal government covers 22% of provincial and territorial health care. The premiers want 35%. Kevin Meisner, City News.
City News Time 103, the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation is calling on the province to address violence in and around schools. The union wants the province to provide funding for anti-violence training programs and the hiring of mental health support staff. President Karen Littlewood says school violence has been a challenge in Ontario for a long time, but she's hearing from teachers that the situation appears to be worse than even before the pandemic. Education Minister Stephen Lecce's office says the Ford government is providing additional resources for mental health, after-school programming and sports, and mentorship programs for students. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it has been a very exciting morning here at City News as that number just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. The 50/50 for the Snowsuit Fund was a gigantic success. And you just have to ask Judy Bond. She is our winner. She's going to be joining me shortly here on the show to talk about how she's going to enjoy $500,000. And of course, the other $500,000 going to the Snowsuit Fund to make sure all the little ones in our community are nice and toasty warm this winter. A little bit later in the show, the Right Honourable David Johnston, the 28th Governor General of Canada, is going to join me. He has a new book called Empathy. And we're going to spend some time talking about this book today. He's such a wonderful guest here on City News. I hope you'll stay for that. First up is Tim Tierney, City Councillor for Beacon Hill, Searville. Hi, Tim.
Good morning, Sam. And first of all, congratulations on the Snowsuit Fund. You're a driving force behind that all the time, and great work.
Oh, thank you so much. Our team is just buzzing here today. It's been a very exciting day. And Tim, I'm saying that you're the city councillor for Beacon Hill, Searville, although I don't live in your ward. You were my city councillor yesterday. I reached out to you, and you were very, very kind to answer a question for me, so thank you for that.
Absolutely. Always here to help.
And I think that's the kind of city we have, right? Is that although you're the city councillor for a certain area, we see other councillors helping residents across the city, especially when it comes to, everything our city's been going through lately.
Absolutely, and that's the way it should be. And I actually have a very positive vibe about this new council. We all seem to be working together quite well, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years.
And all city councillors have Wellington Street on their mind. We heard a little bit earlier from Mayor Mark Sutcliffe in terms of what he is looking to do in terms of this. But what's your first impression, Tim, in terms of what we should be doing with Wellington Street?
Yeah, so I'm sure this was detailed already, but we actually had a motion last term of council that expired in December. So we're really left in a position right now where we have to start determining what we're going to do with Wellington. It's a City of Ottawa street. It's historic in nature. Right now, I did a couple of media hits with other outlets standing on the street. It's frankly, it's not even a secure street right now. There's residential cars on there. So, and let's face it, it doesn't look too good. So I think we have a real opportunity here, especially knowing that the feds have sent people back to work or are in the process of it. And I've heard from your media outlet, a lot of people have discovered this week traffic patterns have increased dramatically, especially between Tuesday and Thursday. And I'm finding and hearing from people, why are we not opening up Wellington, at least for the year, while the study continues, and then figure out what's on the feds' minds here, because we have a perfectly good working street. We have traffic crunch issues, and we got to find a way to be able to get people from point A to point B. That doesn't include having to drive through Quebec to get to the other side, which is literally what's happening right now. So there's a lot to do on this. Again, it's going to make for a very good debate and discussion next week at Transportation Committee, but I'm hearing various thoughts on this. I've spoken to Councillor Ariel Troster, and a lot of her thoughts are, well, can we have the Sundays close it down for Sunday family kind of stuff? And absolutely, so I'm really communicating with all my colleagues and finding out what they want as well.
It's going to be such an interesting discussion, Councillor, as we close in on just about a year, of course, of that convoy. My colleague and friend here, Rob Snow at City News, had a chance to get caught up with Mayor Mark Sutcliffe this morning.
Whenever I see the barricades, it reminds me of the convoy. And I think that's a memory that most people in Ottawa would like to leave behind. And I don't think we should close streets in Ottawa because of threats and events like that. I think we should close streets if there's a thoughtful and meaningful plan and that everything's been considered in terms of traffic and impact on residents.
So I think you and the mayor are on the same wavelength then, Tim, is let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here.
I love that term, and we're pretty simpatico on this one. Of course, I know the feds, they're very much, they have a position on this, but at the same time, there's still no plan. This is what the problem is how long do we let this go on for? Do we have this ugly looking street with these concrete blocks in certain spots and cars are driving in and out, again, not secured, for how long? I don't want to be at the end of this term of council and still have a road sitting there in the condition that it is now. It's our road, and we have to do something with it.
And of course, I think about it from a tourism perspective. We, this sort of December period, my daughter and I were down there kind of having a little bit of a staycation and looking at it through the eyes of a tourist, if you will, because normally I'm rushing around down there. But when you sort of pause and you're looking at the Christmas lights and you're looking at Parliament Hill, and it isn't attractive for tourism as well. And I think, anybody that's visiting here may kind of forgot about the convoy, but when they arrive, they're like, oh, that's why that's like that, right? So it's not the sort of memories we want people having.
Certainly not. I mean, I think we all have memories of this city. And of course, during special events, we've always closed down in front of Parliament Hill for Canada Day and had a great time on the street. And that's something that will continue. But at the same time, it is an eyesore in the state it's in now. Maybe there could be some ideas going down the road about bollards, kind of like other American states, where at a flip of a switch, bollards pop up and you can't go anywhere. You're kind of stuck. There's a lot of discussions to take place, but the conversation has to start now. We can't wait for a complete year to start the conversation. And that's where my head's at right now on this one, Sam.
And in terms of, it being either, turned over to the feds or it remains with the city, the discussion has to happen. I'm hoping, Tim, in terms of who's going to pay for what, because at the end of the day, we are the capital, but the residents shouldn't have to be paying for all of Canada at the same time.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's the big part of the problem here. Is that is our street, and we're not going to just say, here, take it for free. There's a whole discussion around what can we get for that street. Could we apply it to other areas like Spark Street, or there's a whole discussion that has to take place, and it hasn't advanced. So if this actually helps advance that discussion, terrific. But I'm not going to sit around and wait to debate. Do we use a very usable street that's going to solve a traffic issue that is ramping up very quickly? I fully expect in the next month, as more federal employees have to go back to work, we're going to see even more traffic woes in the downtown area, especially people who have to work on the Quebec side in the government offices. I'm hearing it from my residents now.
Mm-hmm. I'm really going to date myself, Councillor, so prepare yourself. But I remember, honestly, being dropped off at the front door of Parliament Hill. I remember driving up on Parliament Hill, and it really was something so special. Now, we know the reasons why that obviously changed over the years, but it just seems like that was just such a Canadian thing to do. Times have changed, but it is a shame to see the state of which we are in today, where now it's all blocked off.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'll date myself as well, Sam. I remember the video of the bus hijack situation. I remember all that stuff that led to the changes of having those bollards so you can't drive up onto the hill anymore. That makes absolute sense. But, Parliament Hill is quite a distance away from the road. Just having that road even open, I think is going to lend itself to cleaning up the streetscape, at least at a minimum for now, until there's actually a fully baked plan, which, again, I haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm. And when I think about what other cities have done, you've mentioned in the States, Washington, and I was just in Europe. I mean, they have done in other cities really beautiful things. And I'm hoping at the end of the day, Tim, no matter what the decision is that, this doesn't become sort of a stain on the city in terms of the leftover memories of the convoy, but rather, if it's going to be turned into even more park, or, there's going to be something, special done there, I'll leave it to the creative minds to think of those things. But, that I'm hoping at the end of the day that the result is either we're driving like we used to, or that space is really there for all Canadians.
Exactly. And it can't be, Jersey barriers and concrete blocks. It's got to be something far better representing the national capital.
Mm-hmm. Will I have you, Councillor? We know that you and all of Council are asking for those, residents to fill out that vacant unit tax. How are you hearing from your particular residents? Is that going well for them?
Well, you know what? I'll be frank with you. I think from a communications perspective, initially, the city stumbled out of the gate. I asked a lot of big questions when this was introduced last year as a discussion point and it was voted on, and we were sold a bill of goods. It would be super simple. It actually is not too hard, with the exception of the fact there was no communications material like the video that I requested that would have shown log into My Service Ottawa, click this button, you're done. That never was created. So there was a lot of confusion about how people could go in. So there was a lot of back and forth with city staff. We've noticed a couple of small glitches in the system as well that have been rectified now. But it's a bit of a wait and see. The uptake is certainly there now, but we're all kind of watching it as colleagues. We want to see, is this a real benefit to the city by doing this or not? What's the cost of it, and how many people have taken part? And I think we'll digest that over the summer period.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's, I'm sure you're all holding your breath as well for when those tax bills come out and maybe somebody didn't fill out that form and they call you complaining, hey, I got this tax bill and it's related to the fact that they didn't participate in this. That day's coming, unfortunately, Councillor.
It is, and as a matter of fact, that was one of my 3 points when we were in the discussion. There was the communications, which unfortunately, like I said, I think we tripped over ourselves on that. The second point was related to, usually councillors can't get involved in a lot of things, parking tickets, that all makes sense. I asked specifically at the table, if a councillor gets a call from someone that has been dinged by this by mistake, can the councillor intervene and get it reversed? And the answer was yes from our city finance person. So there is that ability for your councillor to work for you to undo something that might have been done wrong.
Thank you so much, Councillor Tim Tierney, joining us today from Beacon Hill, Searville. I'll let you get back at it, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Really appreciate it.
City Councillor Tim Tierney spending time with us today. When we come back, Judy Bond is going to be here. May not be a name that you know, but you will know why we're pretty excited here at City News to speak with Judy. Stay with us, everyone.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
My Uncle Cheney was one of over 150,000 Indigenous children that were taken to residential schools between the 1800s and 1996. My uncle ran away from school, wanting to get home to his mom and dad, and sadly he didn't make it and died of exposure. When Gord Downey found out about my late Uncle Cheney's story, he wrote Secret Path, a series of poems that became an album, then a graphic novel, a documentary, and a concert. Gord met my family, and together we formed the Gord Downey and Cheney Winjack Fund. Together, we are sharing Secret Path and other reconciliation resources with legacy schools, setting up legacy spaces across Canada, and hosting events like Secret Path Week to inspire all Canadians to engage in reconciliation. Before he left us, Gord asked us all to do something.
You're gonna figure it out.
Will you join us? Together, we can make Canada a better place.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it has been a very exciting morning here at City News, and we have been waiting for this day for a very long time. It was the Snowsuit Fund 50/50 draw today. And that jackpot just kept growing. Yesterday, when Noah and I were chatting about it, it was about $750,000. It grew right over $1 million minutes before the deadline. Therefore, the winner walking away with over $500,000, and really special as well to know that the Snowsuit Fund has raised over $500,000 to outfit the little one, make sure they're nice and toasty warm in the winter. And I am over the moon to welcome Judy Bond to our show today. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Judy, I cannot believe that you've won this. Are you still in awe?
I'm still in shock, actually.
Yeah, still in shock.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how did you get your tickets?
Well, I listen to Kiss FM in the morning, and I've been listening to them, all of the shenanigans, I'll say, to drum up ticket sales. And this morning, work has been very busy lately, and I kept putting off buying tickets. And this morning I was listening to their producer, Courtney, out in the snow drumming up ticket sales, and I said, I got to get online and buy tickets. And I bought my tickets at 8:20 a.m. this morning, just before the deadline.
Oh, yeah. I just got shivers when you said that, Judy. That's amazing. And what we love is the Rogers Radio Group. We're such a tight group here. So, of course, we have KISS, as you mentioned, KISS 105.3. We have Shea 106. And, of course, Country 92.3. And then on my station, of course, that I'm on, City News 101.1. So all four stations have put so much love and attention into this. And I have to tell you, Judy, we're just so happy for you. And I have to ask, I think it's the question you've probably been asked already this morning, what are you going to do with $500,000?
Well, thank you so much for the congratulations. And I plan to do a house renovation, complete renovation.
Wow.
I took care of my mother before she passed away, and I actually purchased her house from the estate, and I will be renovating that, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry about the loss of your mother, Judy. And,
thank you.
And but it is exciting to do a renovation, and that just sounds like great news. Have you already heard? Because I know we did the announcement around 9:00 this morning, but have you heard from friends and family already?
I've heard from a couple. Maybe most of the people I work with, or some of my friends, may be working and didn't hear the announcement, but I've heard from a couple already. Yes.
So knowing that obviously you've won over $500,000 and the Snowsuit Fund is getting the other $500,000, Judy, how does that make you feel?
It couldn't have gone to a better cause. And, looking outside, and it's snowing right now, and it's been cold this week, and I'm just so happy that they raised so much, because it was only a week ago that it was around 400,000, I believe, mm-hmm. And it just grew so much this week. So I'm so happy that it went to such a high amount for the Snowsuit Fund and such a good cause.
Can I tell you a little secret, Judy?
Sure.
I couldn't sleep last night. So I kept getting up and checking to see how it was growing. And I got up at 4:00 this morning to see if we had hit the $500,000. It was a dream to hit the million, I should say. And for the winner to get the $500,000, it was really a dream to sort of see that become a reality today. And Judy, honestly, I think you were one of the ones that put it over $1 million.
My gosh, that's incredible.
It is incredible. Well, enjoy the win, and I think it'll probably only become a reality probably about a year from now, Judy, when you're like, I think I won $1 million a year ago. $500,000, yeah.
I'm still pinching myself. I can't believe it.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Congratulations, Judy. $500,000, the winner of the Snowsuit Fund 50/50. Congratulations. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
And the Snowsuit Fund 50/50, working on this has been a big passion of one of my colleagues, a good friend of mine, Amanda Young, is in studio. How are you feeling this morning?
Oh, I'm still in shock about, but I shouldn't be surprised on how generous our listeners are in Ottawa. They have showed up huge for the Snowsuit Fund. $1 million in ticket sales.
It's incredible.
Half of that goes to Judy, but think of how many snowsuits that is for the Snowsuit Fund.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it just warms my heart, and we know that it's there to warm all those kids here in Ottawa. I think about families, Amanda, that may be arriving here in Ottawa, and they know Canada is quote unquote cold. Yes. They have no idea. They don't know, how to sort of outfit their little one. Yeah. They might be struggling in terms of money. Those are the families I think about as well. And then I think about families in this community that have been here for a long time, and they actually bravely put up their hand and say, I need a bit of help. And that's what it's all about.
And, you know, like I'm a mom of 2 kids, 9 and 5, and every year they need a new snowsuit.
Right.
They are growing sometimes halfway through the year. You know, you're like, okay, can we make it till March, or is it April this year that the snow is going to be sticking around for? And that's the, you know, what the Snowsuit Fund and the team that works there and puts it together. They really want equality on the playground, right? So while people are certainly donating used snowsuits, and they do make those available, it is a mandate of the Snowsuit Fund to ensure that every child in Ottawa who needs one gets a brand new snowsuit that looks just like their classmates when they're on the playground, and they deserve to have that. And if they need to have it every year, that's fine. If they only need it 1 year, that's okay too.
It's
right?
amazing. And I love that part as well, that you're not looking on the school playground and going, oh, that's a Snowsuit Fund snowsuit.
Yeah.
It's the dignity of it.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I had the privilege about 2-3 years ago. I got a chance to speak with someone that was a donor to the Snowsuit Fund. So you know me. I mean, I love doing these interviews.
Yeah.
I'm chatting away with them, and I just said to them, well, you know, why were you inspired to give to the Snowsuit Fund? And she said, I at one point received a snowsuit. Well, of course, you know me. I start crying because it was just so beautiful, and that, you know, that real cyclical way of giving, and that's the way this community is, Amanda.
And I mean, we can all really hear that. Today was a PD day. How many kids are going to be outside playing in the snow? We finally got good snowman making weather today.
Right.
They can go tobogganing, but we see the joy on kids' face when they go outside. Hey, us adults, we don't love the snow as much as the kids.
Right.
And the mental health benefits of going out and playing in that snow. And they say there's not bad weather, there's just bad gear, right? If you don't have the right snowsuit or the right snow pants, you're not going to have fun playing out in the snow, making snow angels, throwing snowballs, and making the biggest snowman. But you know what we did today? We're writing them a check, $500,000 back to the Snowsuit Fund.
Wow.
They're going to get to make a lot of good with that, right?
I just got shivers again. It's so emotional, right? It's so emotional. You and your team have worked so incredibly hard. I know I didn't sleep last night. I know you didn't sleep last night. Amanda, thanks for all you do.
Oh, gosh.
Appreciate it very much. Amanda Young works with us here at Rogers Radio. She is our branding and promotions manager. We appreciate her very, very much. When we come back, we're going to hear about some good news at the Ottawa Hospital. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101. Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas, this is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
Traffic and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 20. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow, -2. In Smiths Falls, it is -3. And here's what's making news this hour. One Nepean local is $500,000 richer this morning. Judy Bond is the lucky jackpot winner of the Snowsuit 50-50 draw. She bought her ticket at $8.25. That was 5 minutes before the draw closed. The total amount raised in the campaign was a little over $1,001,000. The other half of the proceeds will go to the Snowsuit Fund and will be used to purchase snowsuits for children in the community who are in need of one this winter. And Stephanie Plant, the new councillor for Vanier, has met with the Salvation Army to express her disagreement with a new community hub on Montreal Road or in the Vanier area. The councillor, along with Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, met with Salian officials this week, and Plant says the most vulnerable people in Ottawa deserve the best the city can offer. She told the meeting there has to be a meaningful consultation with Vanier residents about the security concerns they have for the area around the hub. And Plant is asking the charity to look for better options to address homelessness in the city. And the new license plate readers have hit the streets, and so far Ottawa Police says 74 tickets have been issued. 52 of the tickets issued were for expired license plates. The new machines are able to scan 5,000 plates an hour. Remember, renewing your license plate is free in Ontario, and driving around with an expired license plate will cost you $110 if you're caught. City News time is 10:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's Friday, and I think we're all in for some good news today. We wanted to speak with Dr. Natasha Kikri from the Ottawa Hospital. Hello, Natasha.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We understand, Doctor, there's been some exciting news in regards to some new funding for clinical trials in terms of cancer. Walk us through the details here.
Yesterday, the Canadian Institute of Health Research, IHR, released the news of 22 clinical trials that were funded for different things, but for us, it was important to be funded for cancer. And so what we do is we work with domestic manufacturing of a type of immune therapy for cancer called CAR T cells. And this funding that we received yesterday, almost $4 million, will allow us to continue with this work towards Canadian infrastructure for these cancer trials.
And, you know, one thing I know about anything to do with researching cancer, it becomes the treatment for tomorrow. Give us a sense of what you're expecting the results to be from this funding.
Yeah, so we're hoping that for at least with the current clinical trials, that patients with certain blood cancers who really have run out of other options will now be able to pursue this CAR T therapy as part of our clinical trials. And ultimately, if this goes well and we see good response rates, which we are expecting and hopeful of, then we hope that this would be beyond clinical trials eventually and be used for standard of care treatments down the road for our cancer patients in Canada.
And Doctor, talk to us a little bit about a clinical trial. It's a term that maybe people aren't familiar with.
Right. So a clinical trial basically means that it has never been tested rigorously in patients and therefore can't be just given to anybody without making sure that it's safe first. And that's where clinical trials come in. Patients put their trust in us and know that we are testing something to see how it works, how well it works, but also how safe is it for patients. And so these first patients really have to go in. When they enter the clinical trial, we keep a very close eye on them to make sure that they are treated in a safe and manner that would be to a standard that Health Canada holds us to. And if things go well, then eventually we can treat patients outside of a clinical trial.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, Natasha, I had 18 more months with my dad because of a clinical trial. And
that's the kind of stories that we love to hear.
Mm-hmm. And I think about that all the time when I hear about the investment that's being made into these, because like I said, it's the treatment of tomorrow. And let me ask you, you know, when you think about all the work that you do, if you had, you know, endless money, what would you do with that? I mean, this is a grand amount of money that you've been given, but is it more clinical trials? Is that where the magic happens?
Yeah, for me personally, because I treat cancer and I see some of the worst cancers out there, I would love to see our cancer patients having access to the most innovative, state-of-the-art, next best thing for cancer. And to do that, it takes a lot more than just funding the science in the lab. It takes building the infrastructure. It takes funding, all parts of a clinical trial, which is parts that people don't necessarily see that we have to worry about in terms of the funding. So if I had unlimited money, we would build that infrastructure even more. We would treat even more patients, and we would keep bringing state-of-the-art care and new things to Canadian patients, which is really ultimately would be my goal in the research landscape.
And I can only imagine, when you become a doctor, that you would have the world at your disposal in terms of what area that you want to go into. Why oncology? Why cancer?
That's a hard question. I think it's difficult to do, but I think that I get to develop relationships not just with patients, but their whole families. I get to learn their stories. Once they come to us, they're sort of our patient for life, and we walk them through the journey, and I enjoy being part of that path with them. As sad as it can be sometimes, we also do have success stories, and so that's what motivates me to do that job and to keep doing it, is that for every success story, that really is that's our goal, and that's what motivates me to keep going.
And you know what I'm always amazed at, and I get kind of emotional when I think about it, that we're a city of 1 million people, but the Ottawa Hospital is literally world class. Like, you're doing things at the Ottawa Hospital that aren't being done anywhere else in the world, and I think it's remarkable. I don't know if all the residents in Ottawa really understand how special it is to have talent like yourself and your team.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think we're really lucky. We have a manufacturing facility in Ottawa that can make viruses and the other components of this immune therapy that I treat patients with. And that is like no other. There's very few of those facilities in the world, let alone, in Canada, let alone the world, I mean. But I think that's the part, you're right, that people don't really appreciate how much we're doing on a global scale, and really with the goal of getting this to Canadian patients, not just the goal of treating a few patients on trial and getting lots of attention. Our goal is really to then eventually make this accessible to our Canadians all around the country who deserve access everywhere, not just in one city or two cities, but really across the country.
Mm-hmm. And what are you seeing, Natasha, when you have patients? Are you dealing with patients that are 20 years old, 40 years old, 60, or everyone?
Yeah, so the blood cancers I treat, which is lymphomas and leukemias, can really affect anyone, including children. So right now we treat adults, so anyone from 18, there's no age limit at the top, so we see everything in between. And our next trials will also include children eventually, because they also suffer from acute leukemias, and we want to make sure that they are also included in these trials. So we definitely treat a very broad range of ages in this trial, and that's the benefit of immune therapies in cancer, is they can really be used across the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Do you get emotionally invested with your patients?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do. I wish I could detach myself more. Of course, I do get involved and invested with these patients, and like I said, I get to know their families really well. With time, and it is good and bad, because when there's good stories, it's great to know the families, but when you're invested and things don't end well, it can be challenging. But it's part of the job, and so I see it that way, and I think I do my best to be invested, but also to every story that I see, and every good and bad story motivates me to change things down the road for our patients in the future, and that's really what research is all about, is trying to make it better down the road.
And as a doctor really focused on cancer treatment, and this new money is very good news for you. What keeps you up at night, though?
What keeps me up at night is keeping this afloat. So $4 million sounds amazing, but it's really just the beginning for us, and that won't sustain a program like mine for Canadian patients long term. We need a much bigger investment. We need investments in the future. So we need investments into training, which we did see yesterday with this announcement. But we need investments into the infrastructure as well. Again, the parts that we say are not sexy about this medicine, not the fancy science and the new discoveries, but we still need money into the infrastructure to keep it afloat for a long time, not just for the next few years. And that's the part that I struggle with, is we still have to keep looking for that money. So this is a great story and good news for us, but it's really only a little bit of the big piece of the puzzle.
And I know you've been working with 50 patients and having that conversation with patients to say, would you be part of a clinical trial, or are people nervous, Natasha?
Yeah, I think patients are always nervous to try something new, but we do take it very seriously that they have to have informed consent, which means they really have to understand what they're getting into. So we do spend a lot of time, myself and our coordinators and everyone who's involved with the research, we spend a lot of time explaining this to patients to make sure that they and their families really understand what they're getting into. And I think when patients are empowered to understand what they're getting involved with and the value of the research and what could happen to the patient during the trial, I think they feel much more comforted in understanding that. And the more that they know, the better and the more comforted they are going into it.
If we were to have the pleasure of speaking in 10 years from now, where do you want to be in a decade?
I want in a decade to see that a patient up in Nunavut who needs something like CAR T therapy or immune therapies for cancer can get to it easily without a trial, maybe with a trial, depending. But I want to see that every patient in Canada who needs access to immune therapies for cancer can get there without any roadblocks in the way. And that would really be my dream come true.
Tell me about your team.
So we're a huge team of scientists, physicians, coordinators, students, all sorts of people. But we are at the Ottawa Hospital and BC Cancer. We came together as a team without any competition in our minds to really collaborate and come together to build this CAR T platform for Canada that we call CLIC, or Canadian-Led Immunotherapies for Cancer. And the team involves scientists both in Ottawa and in BC who started this platform and built these first trials. But now we're reaching out to the rest of Canada, to Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, cities across the country, to start building a network so that we can roll out these CAR T therapies across the country. And I'm really, really fortunate to work with a group of people who believe in this team effort to bring this to Canada. We don't, like I said, we're not competitive. We're not he did and she did this. And we really focus on each other together building it, not the individuals in the team. So I'm really lucky to have such a huge team behind this work.
Okay, let's make a date for a decade from now. You and I will chat again. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Thank you so much, Dr. Natasha Kekri, joining us today from the Ottawa Hospital with some good news and investment into clinical trials there. And that's wonderful, just hearing her excitement about that, and obviously very talented doctor as well. When we come back, we're going to speak with another doctor. We're going to talk to Dr. Lily Hakim. We're going to be speaking about women's sexual health. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. That was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Yo. Yep. Okay, I'll be there.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, if you're looking to become more energy efficient, we're going to introduce you to a local company that manufactures solar blinds. That's right, they manufacture it right here in Ottawa. Also, the Ottawa Home and Remodeling Show is coming up this weekend. We're going to introduce you to one of the presenters. There's so many incredible presenters this year, and this guest is going to wow you. We'll also tell you, if you're interested in singing, we'll introduce you to a local choral group.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, every couple of weeks, we get connected with one of the professionals at the Center for Interpersonal Relationships, and I always learn something. I expect it'll happen again today with Dr. Lila Hakim. Hello, doctor.
Hi, Sam.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. What's your area of focus, Dr. Hakim?
So I do assessment and therapy with a number of different individuals and couples. One of the areas I focus on a lot is sexual reproductive health, conception, pregnancy, postpartum, and family building.
Well, a lot of that we don't talk about a lot. Would you agree?
I think so. That's actually one of the things I was thinking about coming in today is how little I get to talk about this outside of the therapy room.
Well, here's the good news, is that when I had the opportunity to host this show about, well, coming up on 2 years ago, I said, I want to talk about all the things no one's talking about. And you know, this is something that girlfriends might quietly chat with each other about. They're sometimes not having that conversation even with their partner, Dr. Hakim. But you know, as somebody that I only, unfortunately, waited a very, very long time to get pregnant, not by my choice, but, you know, it can be very challenging on relationships, very challenging on even defining yourself as a woman if you have a hard time getting pregnant.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, thankfully over the years I've been doing this work, the conversations have been opening more outside of the private spaces, and that's been very important. And we've made some sort of movement in terms of people having things recognized at work with respect to time off if they're dealing with fertility difficulties or anything around pregnancy. But there's still a long way to go, and a lot that is not discussed that really needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember someone saying to me that it was somebody else that had had a hard time conceiving, and they said, boy, I spent the first, half of my life trying not to get pregnant, and it seems like the second half trying to get pregnant. So it's a lot of mixed messages for women, do you think, Lila?
Absolutely. And in terms of that, we're really trying to focus a lot on education. I think over the years, different generations of women have been told different things, work and put your career first and then try to conceive later, or all different kinds of messages. But now we're starting to try to take a look at sort of how to increase knowledge around conception earlier, so that people are not in a bind later on, realizing that they thought they had a lot more time than they do.
Mm-hmm. And what are the biggest challenges, do you think, facing women, in this time? We're coming through such a challenging time over the last 3 years. What do you think women are facing right now in terms of their own sexual health and fertility issues?
Really, one of the big things that I talk about a lot is really women being able to empower themselves through this process. not feeling embarrassed or ashamed for whatever their choices or decisions have been along the way, and really being able to just embrace their bodies for what their bodies are doing or not doing, and not to have expectations that things should be happening quickly or on command. Fertility is very complicated. There's so many factors that come into play, and I think often women download a lot of responsibility onto themselves that maybe they should have done something differently before. And so I try to help people really move out of that space and say, look, you did. You know, this is not your fault. We really have to be empowered to say, hey, this is something I'm dealing with now, and how am I going to make this work in my life?
Dr. Hakim, why do women, and I'm not saying all women, but why do some women have a really hard time talking to their partners about some of these issues?
A few things. I mean, I work with couples of sort of all different places and also cultures and, you know, different sexual orientations. So for me, this is a complicated space, right? It's not, there's a lot of different things to take into account, but I feel like in general, women in a lot of different cultures are socialized to feel that their bodies are very private. It's not something you talk to anyone about except for your doctor or healthcare professional. And even your partner sometimes may not understand if they're not going through the same physical thing you are. So the conversation is sort of dampened right from the bat in terms of women's relationships with their bodies, and that's a part that needs to shift and change and not sort of be ashamed. So just a quick example, Sam, around like even women's menstrual periods. Sorry, we don't talk about that much, but really, like, it's a quiet thing. They're going through pain sometimes in the month. We're not supposed to talk about it or show it at work or, you know, tell anyone anything's wrong. And so that sort of culture gets, goes through reproduction as well.
It's so interesting because I think, you know, especially, you know, I think about, you know, when I was 13 years old, and then I think about the difference of when my daughter hit that time in her life, and the difference literally is 180 degree in terms of the conversations, right? And I'm hoping we're coming farther along.
I think so. I think that as the caregivers and the adults are much more open, that sends and models a lot for the kids. And then hopefully with their partners as well, they're able to talk a lot more about, this is what's going on with my body or in my body. And this is, you know, I'm not going to be ashamed of that. I'm actually going to say, that I need certain things right now, whether it's, you know, more care in particular ways or more space or time in order to take care of myself properly. That's not a bad thing to ask for.
For sure. And when we think about pregnancy, one thing I had never heard out, and I thought I had read all the books and did all the work, but it was perinatal depression, and I experienced that, and it was really challenging because I was in a really busy job. I was working at the Ottawa Mission, and I was so joyful to be pregnant. I started my maternity leave about a month before my daughter was due, and so what ended up happening is everybody sort of said, okay, well Sam's going to rest for the next month, and nobody sort of really reached out. All my sort of connections socially and at work all of a sudden just evaporated, and I had a month to wait for this baby, and I really took it hard, and I'd only ever heard of you know, postnatal. I'd never heard of perinatal, and so when I said to my doctor, like, I'm feeling like really blue, and no one's calling me anymore like they used to, and it wasn't a busy life like I had up until that date. That's something we don't talk about at all.
Yeah, and thanks so much for bringing that up, Sam, and because we really don't talk about it. I think there's so many changes happening both physically for a woman during that time, but then also emotionally and preparation, and then shifts in their work life or social relationships. So all these changes just come in all at once. And like you were highlighting, the isolation kind of can kick in because a lot of people are trying to give space when actually someone just checking in and saying, hey, how's it going, really can change things. And so for people, family, friends, knowing that it's okay to lean in, and if you choose not to respond or something, that's all right. But to ask the person how they're doing often does not hurt at all.
I used to just waddle around Costco and keeping myself occupied. But yeah, it's definitely challenging. What advice would you have for somebody that has maybe never sought any type of therapy before, but they're thinking and listening to us right now, and they're thinking, hey, there might be somewhere for me to go now?
Yeah, I think one thing that's important is to know that so many people experience these difficulties, so many women, and that we're socialized not to talk about it, not even sometimes at home with our partners or close family or friends. So if you're the kind of person that does like to talk, that feels that actually helps, a professional is absolutely a great way to go, because as an expert, I can help in terms of all the clinical experience and all the people I've spoken to and bring that in. There's also a lot online. If you're not a talker and you want to connect with others online, you have to be careful which groups, and you can always ask an expert, which ones. But there are great things in terms of connecting with people online as well, and certain forums and group therapies and things like that.
And I'm going to ask you something. I've interviewed probably hundreds of doctors in the last 5 years. I've never asked this question before, but when you're meeting with different people that come and help you, do you walk away better informed as well, like in terms of your own life and in terms of how you view the world after hearing some of the stories?
Oh, absolutely. I learn so much every day. I feel very fortunate to have my job where, like you, I get to speak with so many people and really be a part of different experiences. So absolutely, I learn every day. And the nice part is I get to share that with other people too, right? So it sort of goes in a cycle of coming in and out. But absolutely, it's a big area and a big important space to learn and keep talking and do the same as well.
Well, I hope if we've inspired someone today, they reach out to the Center for Interpersonal Relationships and have a conversation with you. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thanks, Sam.
Dr. Lila Hakim joining us today to talk about women's sexual health, pregnancy, fertility, some of those topics we just don't talk about. When we come back, the Right Honourable David Johnston, the 28th Governor General of Canada, will be joining me for 2 segments. We're going to be spending the whole half hour with Mr. Johnston, and the reason we're doing that is because he's written a new book, just come out this week, called Empathy. I've read this book. It is the book we need right now. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with the Right Honourable David Johnston when we return on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the community billboard.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at like the lighting and the sound, and like it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 20. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow -2. In Smiths Falls, it is -3. And here's what's making news right now. One lucky Ottawa resident is $500,000 richer today. City News reporter Chris Curries with more from the winner of the Snowsuit Fund.
The campaign has been on for months, and we picked a winner this morning. The lucky winner is Judy Bond from Nepean. Here's when she found out that she won.
Oh my gosh.
She bought her ticket at 8:25 this morning, 5 minutes before the deadline, and explains how she might spend some of it.
I plan to do a house renovation, complete renovation.
The other half of the winnings go to the Snowsuit Fund, which helps youth in need with outerwear during Ottawa's cold winters. It's the largest 50-50 in Canadian radio history. Chris Curries, City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
The periods of light snow will continue throughout the afternoon, everything tapering off later on this evening. Still the chance of a few scattered flurries, but nothing that will leave an impact out on the roads. Mostly cloudy Saturday, highs near -1. We're watching for another round of snow Sunday night and into Monday. The guaranteed high for today, -3.
City News time is 11:01. With the province's plan to open up parts of the Greenbelt now the subject of a pair of audits, Premier Ford insists no developers were tipped off prior to the announcement. Queen's Park reporter Richard Southern has the story.
Premier Ford was asked point blank today if he or anyone in his government let developers know about the decision to open up the Greenbelt.
Well, I'm confident no one gave anyone a heads up.
It's been revealed that some developers with PC party ties bought big swaths of this land that you couldn't develop just weeks before the government announced plans to allow development on it this past November. Earlier this week, the Integrity Commissioner says he'll launch an investigation into how the housing minister handled this matter.
There's a little misnomer out there that this was government land. It's not government land. It's private individuals' land.
And that still doesn't address why some developers were buying this just weeks before the government's announcement. Not only is the Integrity Commissioner looking at the matter, so is the Auditor General, and the OPP tell me they're still looking at whether or not to launch a criminal investigation. Richard Southern, City News.
And Federal Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos says the government is in talks with the provinces and territories about healthcare investment. He says he is personally very optimistic and looking forward to positive developments in the weeks ahead.
These discussions continue collaboratively in the best interest of patients and healthcare workers. 5 fundamental areas of shared priorities are our common focus.
And Duclos says those areas include reducing backlogs and supporting healthcare workers, as well as helping Canadians age in dignity. The layoffs list in the tech sector is expanding by thousands today. Google is cutting 12,000 jobs as it scales back after years of rapid growth. City News, Mike Keppel reports.
Google's parent company Alphabet is just the latest in the tech sector to right-size its workforce after 2 years of rapid growth. The company's CEO Sundar Pichai sharing the news Friday in an email to staff at the Silicon Valley giant that was posted on the company's news blog, saying, quote, over the past 2 years, they've seen periods of dramatic growth, but now facing a different economic reality, expecting a slowdown this year. It's a similar refrain to what we've already heard from other big names in tech, including including Microsoft earlier this week announcing 10,000 job cuts worldwide, Amazon previously announcing 18,000 job cuts, and Facebook parent Meta shedding 11,000 positions. At the City News Business Center, I'm Mike Apple.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I have been looking forward to this interview all week. I am so honored to welcome to the show the Right Honourable David Johnston, 28th Governor General of Canada. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, Sam. Great to be with you. And call me David. I always fuss a little bit about that title, Right Honourable, and say, you're supposed to be nonpartisan as a Governor General. Should I be left honourable as well so that you can't balance from the list?
There you go. Okay, we'll make a deal. I'll call you David then, okay?
Great, Sam. Great to be with you.
It's always a pleasure. And David, you've written this incredible book on the heels of writing the book Trust. The timing of your new book, Empathy, is that part of our discussion today? I just feel like Canadians are dealing with a lot right now.
I think it's important, Sam. In fact, it's part of a continuum. When I was sworn in as GG in 2010, the title of my installation address was A Smart and Caring Nation, A Call to Service. And then we began trying to figure out how you involve yourself in the Office of the Governor General to emphasize the smart and caring part of it. And you look at what sort of points of emphasis. And so you have a bit of a bully pulpit as Gigi. And so being a writer, I began to write some of these things. In the first book, sort of trying to fulfill the smart and caring notion, was the idea of Canada, Letters to a Nation. It's my custom of writing letters to people in the morning. And it emphasized the values that each of those 50 or so people to whom I wrote, some posthumously, about Canada. And then the second book was innovation, because innovation is a fundamental part of empathy. Smart and caring, I guess it's the smart part, but the caring part is that it's doing things better to improve the human condition. One was an adult book called Genius, and then the second was a children's book with lots of pictures in it about innovators called Innovation Nation. And that children's book is in most of the primary schools in the country now, and the adult book in most of the high schools. And then along came Trust, which was important because it was an attempt to deal with the diminution of trust in our public institutions. And then finally was Empathy, which is the book that came out this past week. And empathy and trust are the same sides of a coin, with the hope being sort of in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. Why is it important today? We've seen we're at a hinge point in history, Sam. Go back to the end of World War II, Pax Americana developed, and by and large we've had relative peace in terms of conflict since then until the last few years. A remarkable situation where America, which was the conquering nation of the Allies, introduced the Marshall Plan and actually brought back under their feet the Germany and Japan, who had been the enemy. Very rare do you see that in history. And that prevailed for a period of time in a whole international order with a kind of rule of law with the United Nations, World Trade Organization, Bretton Woods Agreement, World Bank. That was a sort of a stability and people dealing with one another, nations dealing with one another with a degree of comedy. That's disappeared very substantially. The nuclear threat has returned to us at the present time. We had globalization, which brought some great benefits, but had some real losers. A very substantial increase in the inequalities of wealth during the past 20 or 30 years, which has created great hardship. And we've had the digital revolution, which is a whole new way of communicating with some goods and some bads to it, or people are in a goldfish bowl and their privacy is very much threatened, etc. And climate change. And then along comes the pandemic, which really shows the vulnerability in all of us. So the world needs more empathy. The world needs more kindness and civility, both within our own communities, within our own nation, but internationally as well. So that's why I think empathy is important at this point in time.
It certainly is. And, I was so happy to see the book arrive on my doorstep so I could read it prior to our conversation today. And I was so happy, David, to see you divide this book into, individuals, communities, and nations. Why was it important to sort of do that trifecta?
Well, I think everything comes down to how each of us acts and conducts our life as family members, as community members, and so on. And it's very much like the trust book, Sam, where the motivation for the trust book was the real concern for the diminution of trust in our public institutions. And we asked the question, well, where does trust in public institutions come from? Well, it's trust in neighborhoods and communities and regional areas and governments, enterprises. And where does that come from? Well, it comes from trustworthy individuals. And so the question was, how do you develop trustworthy individuals? What is a trusted individual? So that's why the arc began with the individual, then communities and nations. And we used that same arc in the empathy book with the 15 chapters, 5 for individuals, 5 for communities, and 5 for nations. And the empathy book, we are a little daring because we speak about empathy being compassionate action. And at the end of each chapter, we make some recommendations, first as individuals, then as communities, then as nations, that we can do to enhance empathy as seen through the lens of that chapter. And then to be a little more bold in terms of prescription, at the end, we have an appendix where for each chapter, we recommend 3 or 4 books and 3 or 4 films that, for Brian Hannington, my co-author, and myself, felt illuminate the particular aspect of empathy that we were discussing in that chapter.
And I really enjoyed that piece, and I love all the resources as well. And as I mentioned, I've read it, and as I did with Trust, I'll read it again because I think there's some nuggets in there, I think, in preparing for today that I might have missed. So I love all those resources, and it's no secret, David, that you absolutely love hockey. You've got such a great story about your love of hockey. Walk me through a little bit of where hockey and empathy have sort of, met for you. What did you learn through hockey for empathy?
Well, as a youngster, I guess from sort of age 9 or 10 on, up in Sault Ste. Marie, which is a wonderful athletic community, and particularly hockey, my aspiration was to play in the National Hockey League. Well, at the same time, particularly with my mother's kind of strict rod, you get the best education you can. So hockey's been a big part of my life. Love the game. It's a beautiful game. It's an unusual game, Sam, because when you're on skates, you can travel almost twice as fast as you can on foot. And a good hockey player is a bit of a ballerina because you can do things on those skates that seem impossible at top speed. But the most important thing I learned from hockey really was the teamwork. Played for a wonderful coach, Cooney Weiland, when I was in college. Cooney had been a leading scorer with the Boston Bruins in the 30s, and then coached the Bruins, and then coached the team that I played for. And he would say again and again, boys, it's the name on the front of the sweater, not the name on the back of the sweater. And you really learn to suborn your individual proclivity and individual exploits and play for the team. So you learn that notion of you're dependent on one another, and you advance the puck and you score and you defend your goal by relating to the efforts of each of the other members of the team. And then the other important lessons that I think come from team sports generally are you learn discipline, that you have to practice and improve your skills. You have to train particularly well. You have to develop an aspiration for excellence, to push yourself harder than you want. You learn to manage your time very well. You, I think, have a sense of goals in life as being particularly important. You learn how to win as well as to lose. Those are important things. And one of the things we did is, when I was president at McGill and president of the University of Waterloo, is recognize the academic All-Canadians. Those are student athletes who play on a varsity team and also achieve Dean's Honor List. And we then established, when I was Governor General, the Governor General's Award for academic All-Canadians. About 3,000 students each year in the universities across the country, and I would do a letter to each of them with a certificate, and then we'd have a ceremony for 8 of them, 4 women, 4 men from the different regions of the country, to honor all of them. And as I read the citations, I used to say they're two-legged people in the sense that they learn to excel in the classroom and on the sporting field and manage their time well. But you learn from those citations they, in fact, were three-legged people. The third leg was that they were heavily involved in volunteer activities, and not simply as a member, but they became the leader, etc. So those were three-legged people that emerged, I think, from team sports, which leads to them being great leaders in our communities.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for that. And we're going to return with the Right Honourable David Johnston, 28th Governor General of Canada, and continue the conversation about his book, Empathy. Stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally, and that's when I first saw Wilf, and I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Whether you're tuning in on Rogers TV, thank you very much. And whether you're tuning in, of course, here at City News, I know you're just as happy as I am to be spending time with the Right Honourable David Johnston, 28th Governor General of Canada. David, as I look through the book and have an opportunity to get connected, I can't help but ask the question, do you think that there's been, because of course you wrote a book about trust, trust. Do you think there's been a lack of empathy as well in terms of not only the trust piece, but a lack of empathy with leaders, some leaders of countries, of corporations? And do you think it's because of a lack of empathy?
Sam, we have worked with the Edelman Trust at the Rita Hall Foundation to attempt to trace out how changes in empathy trust have occurred over the years. The Edelman has been conducting an annual survey for about 20 years now where they identify elements of trust and then gauge where it sits in different nations. And there's been a steady decline over that 20 years. And they look at trust in government, non-government organizations, media, and business. It's very interesting. It's at a low point as of 2022, the last one. And it's interesting that business has actually risen to the top of those four, where previously it was the bottom, and governments were at the top. Governments actually came to the top as COVID first broke out in 2020-21. So we've seen a kind of steady diminution of trust in governments and the corporate sector during that period of time. And it's related somewhat to the points that I made in answer to your very first question, which was the very significant changes in the world since 1945, particularly, I think, the inequalities of wealth developing so dramatically. We do have a lack of empathy, I think, from some leaders. In fact, some grotesque examples of empathy being totally absent from their mind, and power is everything that is sought for by these particular ones. But even in our own communities, I think there is sometimes a determination to achieve political office and then kind of forget what drove you there in the first place when you are there. And that's, I think, where an informed citizenry is really important, that we do encourage, insist upon in our leaders, whether in the public sphere or in the private sphere, that they do have regard for their community, their environment, the folks. In the corporate sector, there's been an increasing focus on the notion of whether the purpose of a corporation is shareholder return or stakeholder return. And to my great delight, as a guy that's been teaching corporate law for about 50, 60 years now, just doing a 6th edition of a book I first wrote 40 years ago called Canadian Securities Regulation, where we drive to have fairness in our capital markets. The notion of the stakeholder responsibility has become increasingly prominent, and that means that the purpose of a corporation is not simply to provide a return on investment to the shareholders, but it is to provide opportunities and empathetic relationship with employees, with customers, with suppliers, with the community in which you work and have existed, and in fact, the country in which you're incorporated. And my belief, and increasingly that of many corporate leaders, is that if you want a sustainable corporation, a company that will last over the decades, it will take the long view. It won't be driven by quarterly profits. It will be very focused on seeing that the business of business is trust, and it will be highly attuned to those stakeholders, not simply the shareholders. So I think that's the kind of path that I hope we continue to journey.
Mm-hmm. I have to have a conversation with you when it comes to empathy, when it comes to Ukraine. I mean, we're coming up on this 1-year milestone, a tragic milestone, and how does empathy and the empathy of Canadians really relate to the tragedy that the people of Ukraine have faced, David?
Sam, I'd answer that by saying if you and I could sketch out a spectrum with empathy at one end and the very ideal application of empathy in our lives and the lives of others, and then you wanted to see the complete opposite of that at the other end, it would be that invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And if I had one hope, it would be that the citizens of Russia, and I realize that one doesn't have an easy franchise to exercise in that country, they would begin to say, what is happening to these Ukrainian people with children and adults being slaughtered in this warfare on cities and so on, quite apart from the battlefield, which is atrocious. All because you've got a megalomaniac who has a romantic ideal of restoring the Russian Empire and will suppress any who are in his way, including his belief that the Ukraine must be restored to its natural place as part of the wonderful Roman Empire. It's really a total lack of empathy, a total disregard from that, and simply conquest and power that is the explanation there. And I do hope, actually, that as the horrors of this invasion continue to be revealed, there will be an awakening within the Russian populace that why are we doing this, and what has led us here? And with any luck, that will result in perhaps the departure of Mr. Putin.
Mm-hmm. And I have to ask as well, you've outlined the books that you've written and Trust and Empathy. Is there a third one on the horizon? Is there another one-word term that you're thinking about right now that could be shared with Canadians?
Well, I guess it all goes back to the smart and caring nation concept that I mentioned at the outset, Sam, which was my opportunity, I think, to occupying that new, very privileged position of seeing Canada through a different lens from Rideau Hall of how we go about being smart and caring. And I think I'll continue to write about that. I mentioned trust and empathy are two sides of the same coin, and in between those is hope. How do we have a nation which can live in hope that trust and empathy will be more and more important in our lives? I guess the other theme that Brian and I, co-author, are looking at is the volunteer, perhaps a book about the volunteer. And I often say that if you want to judge the health of a particular community or a neighborhood, look at the number of volunteers and the volunteer activities in that community. And if it's above the kind of average you'd see, that community is healthy. And if it's below the average of what you normally see, that community is probably not doing very well and it's going to do worse. Of all of the things that we did when we were at Rideau Hall, the honor system is very precious. It's managed out of the Office of the Governor General and the Chancery, which is a totally non-political office, office with no power. And that honor system, to my mind, is the most meritocratic, least political influence, no political influence whatsoever of all the honor systems in the world. And that's really important. And there are about 70 different honors that are reflected there and put into action. The Order of Canada probably is the best known one for outstanding people who follow the motto, "They desire a better country," and have done so much to make this a better country as a consequence. But at the other end of the spectrum is what we now call the Sovereign's Medal on Volunteerism, which is to recognize the unsung heroes, the people who labored away in volunteer activities in their communities for years and years, and are now recognized to celebrate what they've done. And Sharon and I were always so touched when we would participate in these ceremonies across the country, because you'd have 25 or 30 people being recognized with a Sovereign's Medal on Volunteerism, and they would be very bashful. They'd say, well, why are you singling me out? I mean, I managed the local food bank for 25 years, but look at all of those other people who volunteered to help day upon day, week upon week. What about them? I said, well, we're honoring them as well, and we're encouraging others to follow their example. So the notion of volunteerism and what it means to healthy communities is something that is of importance to me, and we might do something about it.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time today and sharing about your new book, David. The word empathy, I think, is just something that we need to explore more, and you've done a beautiful job here. Please say hello to Sharon for me, and I wish you both well.
We'll do that, Sam, and I must say how delighted I am that we have you more each day on the radio waves and television news, because what you do is the example of empathy, compassion into action, and encouraging the rest of us to be inspired by that.
Oh, thank you, David. You made my whole year, and it's only January. Thank you so much.
other 11 months be good ones as well. So.
Thank you. The Right Honourable David Johnson spending time with us today, 28th Governor General of Canada, and of course the author of a number of books. Trust definitely sits on my shelf, and Empathy does as well, but more importantly, they sit on my heart. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas, this is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at like the lighting and the sound, and like it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
For local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 20. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smith Falls, light snow, -2. And here's what's making news this hour. The Snowsuit Fund has ended on a high note for one Ottawa resident, Judy Bond of Nepean, bought her ticket just 5 minutes before the door closed and ended up $500,000 richer this morning. Of the over $1 million raised, half goes to Judy and the other half will be used to purchase snowsuits for kids in our community who need one. The just concluded Snowsuit Fund 50/50 is the largest 50/50 in Canadian radio history. Ontario is expanding a grant that sees the province pay for tuition for students who enroll in some healthcare programs. The province Learn and Stay grant will now cover tuition and other costs for paramedic and medical laboratory technologist programs in return for individuals working in the region where they studied for 2 years. The province launched the initiative last year for nursing programs, and Premier Doug Ford says it will help 2,500 post-secondary students. If you're still driving around Ottawa and the Valley with an expired license plate, the clock is ticking for you. The new license plate readers have hit the streets, and Ottawa police have already started issuing tickets to defaulters caught by the machine. It is able to scan 5,000 plate numbers per hour. Remember, it doesn't cost you a dime to renew the license plate stickers, so head to ontario.ca to get it done. City News time is 11:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, one of the topics that we've shared a lot about here on the Sam Laprade Show on City News and, of course, on Rogers TV is the anti-Semitism that has been very, very challenging for the Jewish community here in Ottawa. And a number of people wanted to see change. I think we all want to see change and Lisa Leviton is one of them, founder of Rise Up Ottawa. She joins me now. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, good morning.
Lisa, tell us a little bit about Rise Up Ottawa.
Well, Rise Up Ottawa started not too long ago, actually, and we had an event on November 6th, 2022, where we got the Jewish community together in Ottawa, and the largest gathering, I'll say, to talk about the anti-Semitism that was going on in the schools. So we educated and we engaged and we let the community know what was happening and that they needed to open that dialogue, specifically if they were parents of students in the school system right now, to make sure that they understood that anti-Semitism was being normalized in the schools to the point where the students didn't even recognize it anymore. So the aim was to get students to start speaking up to their teachers, their principals, and parents to make sure that they understand that they have the right to be safe while at school.
Absolutely, and we saw some heartbreaking news out of a school in the West End from the Ottawa Carleton District School Board where there was some hate crimes. A couple of students have now been charged in relation to that. That particular incident was really, really challenging for the Jewish community, and we know that along with a number of other unfortunate incidents, including, we've got a board trustee by the name of Dr. Nili Kaplan-Mirth, who has been sharing the vile emails that she is receiving. But there was good news this week, Lisa, in terms of the Ottawa Carleton District School Board deciding, unanimously voting, which is an important piece here, to hire a Jewish equity coach. Take me to the minute you found out this was going to be a reality.
Oh, this is a good week. You're absolutely right. It's important to say this is unprecedented. There are no Jewish equity coach positions in Ontario, certainly. So this is, unprecedented and certainly needed. So when I was there at the meeting and, waiting for them as they were debating back and forth, there was never a doubt in my mind that any of these trustees or senior staff would be against a Jewish equity coach, knowing what they know has been going on in the schools. They all want to help and make sure that there's no hate in our schools. But it's still I'm not sure how this is going to go feeling as they're debating back and forth. So as soon as the question was asked by Vice Chair Trustee Bell, all in favor, and I saw all the hands go up. I'm going to be honest, I dropped to the floor and just started bawling my eyes out like a baby because I couldn't believe that this was finally happening, that they were recognizing the need from this community. And what essentially happened is they unanimously came together to say, we see you, we validate you, we hear you, and we're going to help you. And although we can't, those who aren't Jewish, they can't fully understand what we're going through, we're going to make sure that you have appropriate representation so that if there's any hate aimed at Jewish students, staff, or families, that they have someone to go to who understands and who can help steer them in the right direction. So what the OCDSB, I applaud them. What the OCDSB did this week is they said Jews do count. And I just hope with everything I have, I hope that all the other school boards, certainly in Ontario, but I'm a big dreamer, so in Canada and in the world, that they use this example from the OCDSB and they follow suit and do exactly what they did to ensure that anti-Semitism is absolutely brought to the forefront in terms of combating it in our schools. I really hope, and I implore, and I challenge all the other school boards to follow the lead of OCDSB's example.
And I appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to ask you this question because once again, I say this a lot here on the show. I don't know if it's just that I'm naive, but I cannot believe in the year of 2022, 2023, that we are having this discussion about anti-Semitism and people denying the Holocaust. We know what Kanye West, the damage that he has done. I cannot believe this is happening. It boggles my mind. I'm not of the Jewish faith, but I cannot believe the vile attacks that are sent towards Trustee Kaplan-Myrth. It is mind-boggling. Is it mind-boggling for you, or is this not a surprise for you, Lisa?
About a year and a half ago when all this stuff started, I was in shock, and I felt like I was in the twilight zone to be. I'm the first grandchild of Holocaust survivors, so and intergenerational Holocaust trauma is a very real thing. So, but it's certainly not all about me. And important about Dr. Nellie Kaplan-Myrth, the hate that she's getting, specifically the anti-Semitic hate that she's getting, is unacceptable. And I really do hope that the police and the hate crimes unit come forward soon and start to lay charges. But important to realize, and I don't want to take away from what she's receiving because it's just horrific, but these students and teachers have been receiving similar, very similar hate from their peers for a year and a half. So it's wonderful because Dr. Kaplan-Myrth has a platform where she can post this and the community can see what's happening. But the amount of children and teachers and families that have been, attacked, whether it's, physically or harassment or whatever has gone on, and have been hiding it for a year and a half because they're just so scared. And that's where the non-Jewish community, that's why I look to them. The silence is complicity, and the silence from the non-Jewish community has been deafening, and we're hoping that people are going to start speaking up and saying that this is not okay. And that's what the OCDSB just did, and we hope that the Ottawa community at large starts speaking louder and saying this isn't okay, because if it was any other group, we would have massive protests in the street. It just wouldn't be happening. And us Jews, we would be joining you. We're taught for a very young age to always stand with anyone being discriminated against, and we do. We're there at every peaceful protest, rally, we're there. So now I guess my question is, where are you when we need you? And that part is what's terrifying. That's what's that's the most disturbing to me.
The fact that you don't feel like that the allies have come in your dark days. Right, exactly. So and I know they do, the support is there in terms of, I'm sure I don't think any teacher or any community member that's like-minded in Ottawa wants anti-Semitism to exist. I certainly don't. But I don't hear anyone speaking out about it. I don't hear anyone condemning it or anyone saying how atrocious this is, the way that they have with all other marginalized groups experiencing hate. And that, to me, is the most terrifying, because if anyone thinks that it's going to stop with the Jews, they're fooling themselves. Because, after they come for us, they're going to come for you. And then we're not going to be there to help you like we always are, because we won't be here. Mm-hmm. So this is terrifying. And again, people need to start talking about it. People need to stop whispering at the water cooler saying, oh, can you believe what, I hate saying his name, but can you believe what Kanye West is doing? Yeah, instead of saying something like that quietly at a water cooler, do something, take action, post on your social media. It takes 2 seconds and say, I stand with the Jewish people and this is unacceptable. They need to start speaking up for us the way that we have and will and continue to always speak up for them, because hate is hate, and that's the end. We need to put an end to Jewish hate, and that's what the End Jew Hatred movement, rights movement that I'm involved in, and it's absolutely paramount that everyone understand that our human rights and our civil rights are absolutely being stripped away. And in 2023, it's unbelievable. I can't believe we're here. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing time with us today and for all of your work through Rise Up Ottawa. And I know we'll speak again. And, when the Jewish equity coach is hired, I'm really hoping the Ottawa Carleton District School Board allows us to speak directly to them as well. And really, we want to stay on this story. Okay, Lisa?
Thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. Lisa Leviton, founder of Rise Up Ottawa. When we come back, Keith Whittier is going to be here. He's a movie reviewer. He has 3 movies for us. He's going to tell us what we should be watching and maybe what we should be avoiding. Stay with us here on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, if you're looking to become more energy efficient, we're going to introduce you to a local company that manufactures solar blinds. That's right, they manufacture it right here in Ottawa. Also, the Ottawa Home and Remodeling Show is coming up this weekend. We're going to introduce you to one of the presenters. There's so many incredible presenters this year, and this guest is going to wow you. We'll also tell you, if you're interested in singing, we'll introduce you to a local choral group.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
There we go. Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV. Rogers TV brings you a special concert filled with traditional Ukrainian carols. Experience Ukrainian Christmas and the New Year through song. Join us for a Festival of Carols concert exclusively on Rogers TV.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's Friday. You know what that means. I get to spend some time with the one and only Keith Whittier, who's a movie reviewer. How are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I also am fantastic. It's certainly going to be a very exciting weekend. Are you going to have an exciting weekend?
I hope to. I never go into the weekend thinking, "Wow, this is going to suck." But no, I hope it's going to be a good weekend.
That's a good point. You're always keeping it real, Keith. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So you sent me a note yesterday, and we always talk about movies, of course.
Yeah.
But you sent me a note because you know of my love of Ted Lasso.
Yes.
And the news is, you share the big news.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next season of Ted Lasso will be coming out this spring. So I know a lot of people like Sam and myself have been excited about when is the next season dropping, and we finally have word. I don't have a specific date, but I'm excited. Spring. That could be April. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. I'm in.
Absolutely. So I went home last night and I said, Avery, Keith says, Keith says Ted Lasso is coming this spring. So we celebrated by watching the very first episode last night again, which of course is probably the 10th time. But anyway, let's talk. It's absolutely an amazing show. For anyone that hasn't watched it, honestly, it's a great investment of time, and you'll be like Keith and I, you'll be addicted. Let's talk a little movies today. We're going to first talk about Living.
If only to be alive for one day. But I realize that I don't know how.
Do you think we should alert the police, perhaps?
What will the police care? He's a couple of hours late for work.
A couple of hours late for work. Who would ever have thought?
Ooh, tell us about this one, Keith.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting film. We've got Bill Nighy, who a lot of people will remember as the rock star character from Love Actually. Complete other end of the spectrum. He's playing a very subdued character in this, known as Mr. Williams, the civil servant in the 50s or so who just kind of goes through life very much through routine. Then, unfortunately, he gets a diagnosis letting him know that he doesn't have a lot of time left, and that basically sends him on a course of basically re-examining his life. So it's really a story, I think, of, again, reminding us that life is so precious, but also showing how the interactions that you have with people can have such a profound effect. Of the three movies that we're talking about this weekend, this is really the feel-good movie, and I know that Bill Nighy's been getting a lot of consideration from an award perspective for his very strong performance in this film. This is a movie that's playing exclusively at the Bytown. I think it's really done well. I thought the performances in it were good, and it's a very sweet, old-time British proper movie, but definitely worth checking out.
Oh, okay. It's on my list. Yeah. The next one, of course, is Missing.
Hi, this is Grace Allen. Please leave a message.
Mom, where are you guys?
What is your emergency?
My mom never came home from her trip. I don't know where she is.
I'm calling about a guest you had.
Espere, ¿no habla español?
Does anyone speak English?
I'm sorry.
This is Elijah Park.
Please, I need your help.
The FBI doesn't have jurisdiction to investigate in Colombia.
So is there anything I can do?
Well, this is my worst nightmare, Keith. Let's talk about this movie.
Yeah, so this might be Avery's worst nightmare, because what we're looking at with this film is we've got a mother played by Nia Long and her new boyfriend decide that they're going to go on holidays, and they disappear. So it's left to the daughter to try to, the daughter and the authorities, of course, to try to figure out what's going on. Now, the daughter, played by Storm Reed, plays June, and what's interesting about this film is the entire film pretty much takes place with our screens. So whether it be our internet screens, looking up Google searches or iMessenger or FaceTime or surveillance, it's all from that perspective. Now, if that sounds familiar, that's because we saw the exact same thing a few years ago in a movie with John Cho called Searching, where at that point it was the father looking for his daughter. There's some aspects of this film that are very enjoyable from a plot twist perspective, but then there's some that as the story unfolds, it's just a bit of a head scratcher. I feel, especially with the tundra that we're in this weekend, if you haven't seen Searching, stay home and watch that. I don't think that there's anything new and exciting with Missing. I think it's just one of those films where Hollywood says, hey, listen, this was successful the first time we did it, so let's just do it again and see if we can get that sequel money. I don't think the sequels is great. It usually isn't. Definitely isn't in this case. So with that being said, I would say maybe skip on this one or wait for it to hit a streaming service in the next couple of weeks, as they tend to do. But Missing was okay, but just not worth running out to the theater for.
Okay, and see, this is exactly why we invite you in every Friday. So there you go.
I'm all about saving people time.
There you go, absolutely. And the third one today is called The Son.
Has he been able to talk about the divorce?
I've tried to be there for you. I've tried to give you strength. What's going on? Are you on drugs? You think you can just live your life doing whatever you feel like?
I don't know what's happening to me.
Okay, Keith, tell me about this.
Yeah, so several years ago, writer-director Florian Zeller gave us a movie called The Father with Anthony Hopkins about a man with dementia went on to win Academy Awards. This is the follow-up, and this is part of Florian Zeller's mental health trilogy. And in this film, we meet Hugh Jackman, who's this professional, extremely hectic, has a lot going on, has a son that he shares with his ex-wife, played by Laura Dern. Challenge is that their child is having a lot of difficulty with the fact that the parents are no longer together, coupled with the fact that Hugh Jackman's character has remarried and they have a baby of their own. So it's really a story about how their son is having a very difficult time adapting. He's not going to school. He's become very despondent, things of that nature. This is a very emotional film. Bring your Kleenex for this one. But at the same token, very strong performances in this. Florian Zeller is just out to break everybody's heart and just take us on this whole, this whole whirlwind of emotions. But it's also a very strong movie because it deals with a lot of themes that we're speaking about. We're more speaking about more openly in society in regards to mental health. I strongly recommend this film. If there was one movie out of the three that I'd say leave your house for this weekend, it would be The Son.
Okay. See, yeah. and I'll leave my house then. That's good. So a little while ago, you spoke about a movie called The Whale. And with Brendan Fraser, and I'm trying to find that movie, and I cannot find it. Where can I watch that movie, Keith?
Let me take a look, because last time I checked, that as of last week, that was playing in theaters.
Oh, it's still in theaters. Okay, I missed that.
It was still in theaters, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm glad to know that you are on the hunt for The Whale, as we would say. It hasn't, to my knowledge, come to a streaming service as of yet.
Okay.
And I can see that it's at Bytown, Landmark, both Landmark, Orleans and Canada, and Scotiabank Theatre. So you've got a couple of different options.
Fantastic. You'd think I could look that up myself.
Well, here I am, like quick search, but yeah, I'm here for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, I've just heard such good things, and of course, I think he received, you can correct me if I'm wrong, like an 8-minute standing ovation by his peers.
Yeah,
something like that.
I want to say it was at the Venice Film Festival, I believe.
Yeah.
It's an incredible performance, and he recently won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor, and that was last week. I suspect when the Oscar nominations come out on Tuesday, he'll be nominated for Best Actor as well. So there are a lot of wonderful performances last year, but as I've said before, I think it was the best performance of the year.
And you have a very big week coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be covering the Sundance Film Festival, which just kicked off. And so basically my life is going to be, surprise, watching a lot of movies. And these are, of course, going to be movies that are going to be coming out over the course of the next little while. Sundance is a great festival. Let's keep in mind last year's Academy Award Best Picture winner, Coda, came from Sundance. So I'm very interested to see what this year's slate has in store for us.
And as you know, Coda has ended up being one of my favorite movies. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's why you see you and I are great taste.
Yes, exactly. brag ourselves. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Keith, thanks so much for everything you do for our show here on the Sam Laprade Show and for City News. We appreciate it very much. We'll miss you next week, but then we'll look forward to getting caught up.
Looking forward to it myself.
Thank you so much. Keith Whittier spending time with us today. He's a movie reviewer, joins us here every Friday. When we come back, it's lunchtime. It's going to be a reunion of sorts. Carol Ann Meehan's going to be here, former city councillor, and Timothy Walker from Tiger Lily Marketing. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 20. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, -2, light snow, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. It appears the federal government and the provinces are very close to landing a deal on new long-term healthcare funding after months of negotiations. City News Parliamentary reporter Cormac McSweeney has more.
Speaking in Ottawa, Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos says he's very optimistic about the possibility of a new deal and looks forward to positive developments in the weeks ahead. He says discussions continue collaboratively and they have 5 shared priorities.
Reducing backlogs and supporting our health workers, enhancing access to family health services, improving mental health services, helping Canadians age in dignity, and modernizing our healthcare system, in part through a better use of data to save lives and increase the quality of care to Canadians.
Provinces were initially hesitant to accept the federal government demand that spending be targeted and tracked for achievable goals. It appears there's now some flexibility from some provinces. The Toronto Star and Globe report a First Minister's meeting could be held to finalize the deal in the days after next week's federal cabinet retreat. Right now, the federal government covers 22% of provincial and territorial health costs. The premiers want it at 35%. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
-3 for a guaranteed high today in Ottawa. Still some periods of light snow linger through the afternoon. Through the late evening and overnight, everything tapers to some flurries if we see anything at all. So pretty quiet start to Saturday. May see some flurries Saturday night and early Sunday, but the next round of active weather is a bit of snow Sunday night and through Monday morning. Not a lot, just a little bit will roll through a couple of centimeters. The guaranteed high -3.
City News Time 12:02. What happens if you fill out your residential vacant unit tax declaration but still end up getting dinged? Beaconville Surville Councillor Tim Turney tells the Sam Laprade show your city councillor might be able to help you out.
Usually councillors can't get involved in a lot of things, parking tickets, that all makes sense. I asked specifically at the table, if a councillor gets a call from someone that has been dinged by this by mistake, can the councillor intervene and get it reversed? And the answer was yes from our city finance person. So.
Property owners in Ottawa have until March 16th to fill out and submit their vacant unit tax declaration, even if the property is your main residence. Residents with more than one home must also submit a declaration for each one that they own. It's an age-old debate. How much should you tip, or should you even tip at all? City News reporter Monica Gould is hearing from a woman who got a rough ride after refusing to tip her restaurant server.
Christina McNeely says tipping expectations have gone out of hand. It comes after the Vancouver woman says she felt pressure to tip at a restaurant recently, despite being served by a robot.
We didn't see the server until we flagged down for our receipt. And then we went to pay, and then she said, "You don't tip?" And I said, "How do you tip a robot?"
Simon Peck, an associate professor of business at the University of Victoria, says there are two tipping trends that have gained traction in the last few years.
The first is that we're being prompted to tip in a much larger array of contexts. So different businesses like fast food restaurants, some retail establishments. And the second trend is that the prompts for the size of tip are getting higher and higher as well.
In Vancouver, Monica Gould, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, thank you so much for spending your lunchtime with us. And whether you're tuning in on Rogers TV or tuning in right here at City News, we appreciate it very much. As you know, at lunchtime, we feast on those top news stories of the day. And we've invited a couple of people to the table. It's going to be a little bit of a reunion of sorts. Carol Ann Meehan joins us, former city councillor. Hi, Carol Ann. And we've
Timothy.
and Kimothy Walker's here. Kimothy Walker, of course, from Tiger Lily Marketing. Hi, Kimothy.
Hi. Can you believe it was 9 years ago this March that Carol Ann gave me a beautiful send-off at CTV Ottawa when I left after we worked together for almost 25 years.
Wow.
I know. Amazing. You got a send-off. I wish I could say I got a send-off, but I didn't. Well, maybe not the kind of send-off I was hoping for, but I'm glad you did, Kim.
No, and certainly
it was by you, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's very appreciated that you would both join us today, and lots of things to talk about. And Carol Ann, I have to ask you first off, we haven't spoke since the election. How are you feeling post-election?
Well, I'm feeling very well. I'm transitioning into certainly a quieter period, but I'm quite enjoying it, and I'm ticking off all those things on my to-do list that I was sitting on for a number of years. So I'm getting into the swing of things. I think enjoying this pace, but I'm going to be looking for something fairly soon, so I'll keep you informed.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep us up with all your adventures. And Kimothy, we know that when you left your television world, you started something brand new with Tiger Lily Marketing, and that's keeping you busy.
Yes, COVID was a wee bit of a challenge, and thankfully many of our clients were able to weather that because we rely on their success, of course, and in the event space that was challenging. So I am so happy that many of them are coming back, and the restaurants, obviously, Sam, you've into some of those that we represent, and they are seeing people flow back to the downtown area, particularly one ANA that we love near Parliament Hill. So I am thrilled for them and thrilled for us because their success is our success.
Absolutely. And speaking about Parliament Hill, Carol Ann, I don't have to tell you that that's been such a challenging area of our city, that area right in front of Parliament Hill on Wellington Street. In your opinion, Carol Ann, what's the best option for how to move forward with Wellington Street?
Yeah, this is certainly the big question that we have to solve, and I think we have to really solve it very quickly because the downtown core it's deteriorated. Let's face it. I mean, with the return of some federal public servants, that's a bright sign. I don't think we'll ever see the hustle and bustle as they had when everybody was working from the downtown. But yeah, the downtown is in sore need of a lot of attention, and I think it will start with Wellington Street. I understand why it was closed after the convoy, but that really was a knee-jerk reaction, I think, to something fairly serious. But I think it's time, and I agree with the mayor on this. I think that Wellington Street has to be reopened, and reopened as quickly as possible. Right now, to me, it symbolizes a city that's spinning its wheels. We have to, if this was Washington, this would have been decided very, very quickly if they closed off traffic, or even if they closed off the promenade in front of the White House. There would be screams to solve this and make it as beautiful as possible. That said, I think that we've got to reopen the street right now until we have a permanent plan in place. Are we going to turn it into a promenade? Is it going to be a walking area? Are the streets going to be designed so that the traffic will flow better than it's flowing right now? I think that the mayor's got it right. Let's open it up and then come down, start working on a plan to fix it and make it as beautiful and as welcoming as it can be.
And we did hear from Mayor Mark Sutcliffe this morning. He was on with my friend and colleague Rob Snow on Wake Up with Rob Snow. And here's what he had to say.
Whether the road is going to be the City of Ottawa's street or whether it's going to be the federal government's jurisdiction, and whether it's going to be closed as it is now or whether it's going to be open to vehicles, whether it's going to have bike lanes, all kinds of things are possible. Is it going to be a public space? Is it going to be like the space in front of the White House? You know, there's lots of examples out there. That's a long-term discussion. But in the meantime, we need to make a decision as a city about what happens to the street while we're waiting for the conclusion of that healthy process.
What are your thoughts, Timothy, on what we should do with Wellington Street after hearing the mayor?
I agree with all of this, and also expanding that conversation. Carol Ann and I worked across from that notorious McDonald's for a long time, and the broader conversation I would like to see is that entire thriving community and what we're going to do with it, because that road is not a road to nowhere. That road is part of a thriving tourist community that is extremely important for our economic well-being. And the hotels in that area, the flow of tourism in that area, once all those federal workers go home for the day. And those people need to feel safe if it's a promenade, if that road is used to move our commuter traffic, and those beautiful tourism buses that we see. And what is happening in the community that Carol Ann and I worked in and that a lot of people live in is we're seeing some very significant problems in that community. And we need to talk about that. And it's not just about the tourists. It is about the poor, unhoused people that live in that community. And when we close a McDonald's, we're just moving them somewhere else.
Such an interesting conversation, and one that I knew you would both know well. We heard yesterday from the NCC that there will be a renaming of the Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway, and it's going to be renamed on September the 30th to, of course, coincide with the Truth and Reconciliation Day. We know that they're looking for an Indigenous name. Do you support this renaming, Carol Ann?
Ooh. No, there seems to be so many touchy issues in this city right now. Do I support the renaming? I do not. And I'll tell you why I do not. Not because I agree with what Sir John A. Did in the past historically, but because we are always rewriting our history. I think we have to learn from our history. We're seeing the statues pulled down. We're seeing a lot of things renamed. But in doing so, I think that we're losing an important part of our country, and that is that, some of these politicians and people who made decisions in the past were far from perfect people. But I think that we have to build on the knowledge that we have gained over the years and put up plaques that say, this happened in these particular years, and what we have learned going forward, cast a shadow over these decisions. But this is what we're doing now. We recognize this part of our history, but we're going forward, and these are the things that we're changing. But by simply changing the names, I think we're doing our history a real disservice. I hope I can say that. I'm saying that as well as I possibly can, but I don't think we should be just etch-a-sketching our history. I think we can do a lot better than that, and we can teach generations of children where we went wrong and how we're making improvements on it as we go forward. So no, I would love to see the name stay the same. If anything, if it has to be changed, I'd love for it to go back to the Ottawa River Parkway. It's just a clean, good name for a stretch of roadway that everybody uses.
Timothy, your thoughts?
I would like to see it changed. I grew up in Kingston, where there is a museum celebrating his history. So I grew up with a celebration of his hometown. And of course, Kingstown and, what was going to be the capital. And I think that we put names on buildings, names on roads, and, names on a bridge, the Max Keeping Bridge, because we celebrate. It is a place of honor. And when you lose, because history is now known, when you lose the honor, I think you need to be stripped of the honor. And to name it the Ottawa River Parkway instead of a renaming to be a new honor, because we now recognize that we have not honored the people that should have been for their role in this great nation, and that we didn't do a good job at all in honoring or saving the lives of. I think that is a sign that we realize we should have done much better.
I appreciate your feedback as well. Thank you both so much for your thoughts. We're going to come back after this short break and talk about more things on Lunch with Sam today, where we feast on those top news stories of the day. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the NCC. We're also going to talk about the Ottawa Police Service Board. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
I'm not special. Cancer happens to people all the time. I take 1 mile at a time, 26 miles a day. want to set an example that'll never be forgotten. Sometimes it feels endless. But the pain I feel is nothing. I've seen little kids in so much pain. Somewhere, the hurting must stop.
Terry Fox ran more than halfway across Canada to raise money for cancer research. Every year, millions of people around the world continue the marathon of hope in his name.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's a bit of a reunion lunch today. We're so happy to have Timothy Walker from Tiger Lily Marketing join us again. And Carol Ann Meehan is here, former city councillor, of course, both broadcasters, legendary broadcasters in this city. Timothy, when we think about the NCC and the Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway and the discussions regarding the renaming, I don't know if it's just me, I'm hopeful. Are you seeing the NCC being more transparent in recent years?
Well, you know, when I saw another former councillor, Toby Nussbaum, talking about what he knew about the arena and the Ottawa Senators, and was being fairly transparent about, hey, look, I think there's going to be some news by fall related to an arena down there, and this is what I know about talks happening with the team. I actually was fairly optimistic that gone are the days that, you know, Carol Ann would remember that it was, you know, basically reporters down there trying to knock on doors for in-camera meetings because we couldn't find out, you know, this is, 20 years ago, well, maybe even 30 years ago now, we couldn't find out anything that was happening behind those closed doors. And we all have to remember there are actually 4 levels of government within this city. Well, we don't really count, Toronto not in this city, but it operates in this city for the Ontario level. And we couldn't find out anything about where the NCC stood on certain things that impact Ottawa. It's a very complicated city, as Carol Ann knows.
Carol Ann, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to concur. Timothy's bang on when she said, I can recall, like, if the assignment editor asked you to try to get a quote or a statement from anybody at the NCC, like, it was like good luck. There was getting any information from them was like trying to get into Fort Knox. And they spoke to us when they were really well prepared to speak to us, but not before that. And I was pleasantly surprised, as Timothy was, when I saw the statement from Toby at the head of the NCC in regards to negotiations with the Senate organization. So I thought, maybe it's happening, and it's very welcomed, I have to say.
I agree. I've had Toby Nussbaum join us here on City News on the Sam Laprade Show to talk about different initiatives, and one of them was sort of an open door day that they were hosting, and I thought, good on you, Toby. I thought that was fantastic. fantastic. So I didn't know if it was just my perception of it, but I certainly welcome the transparency and look forward to the new name for the Parkway, and of course everything happening with LeBreton Flats and of course our Ottawa Senators. Let's shift gears a little bit, Kimothy, and talk about the Ottawa Police Service Board. We know that this board has been under such a challenging time in the last little while, and we know that they're in search of a new chair. We have an interim chair in Suzanne Valiquette, but we're looking for that public member, and there's a chance that new public member may become the chair. The idea of a paycheck, a $54,000 paycheck that will go along with the role of the chair, where they were normally paid $1,000 a month, so $12,000 a year. How do you feel about the fact that this chair will receive that kind of remuneration?
Sam, you do know Carol Ann is on this call,
Yes,
right?
I do. I'm getting to her in a second.
I was not chair of the Ottawa Police Services Board. If you want me to take this, first of all, I can say that anybody who takes on the job of chair should be paid a decent salary, because it is a full-time job. I mean, if given the amount of work, it was like a huge burden that the chair had, especially last term when Diane Deans was at the helm of the Ottawa Police Services Board. It was a full-time job, and that's basically all she did, was trying to keep on top of all the issues that the board was facing. So, and I know she didn't get paid that. She had her salary, but had all the other responsibilities on top of it. So I think whoever they get should be paid a salary, because it is a full-time job.
And actually, Sam, I was going to agree. It was just, I remember when, everybody knows that I call it honkorama, but, when that crisis was happening and the entire city was engaged in watching that meeting, Carol Ann, that you were a part of, everybody watched that meeting, I think. Because, certainly if we had all been back at work, we would have been around the office cooler talking about it, because the amount of work that went into everything that we all learned about by watching that meeting, the hiring, the contracts, the talking to people, the leadership issues, the finding out how these people got into the city, and just the amount of work. People don't understand how much goes on behind the scenes of a job. They just don't. And when people complain about how much teachers make, well, the people that are, educating your children, and, we complain about how much a teacher makes, and yet movie stars make how much. So I wouldn't have any problem with that amount of money.
And it's so interesting, because we know the deadline is actually coming up on Monday for those applications. A lot of different city committees, whether it be the library board, the health board, or the police service board, lots of different positions there for conservation authorities as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see who puts their name forward for these roles. We know that last time there was about 500 applications for these roles. So people stepping up, wanting to become part of the community, which is really, really important. Okay, we're going to leave our lunch today on a bit of a fun note. It's a Friday, gals. You know what I mean? We want to have a bit of fun today. Kimothy Walker, will you be heading to an Ottawa Zellers location when they become open in this area?
I will not. And it's not because I have anything against the brand. It's just that one of the things when I volunteered with Ottawa Board of Trade early on in COVID is I changed my shopping patterns to help these small little businesses that were trying to survive, and I've quite enjoyed that process. And I live in the Glebe, right on Bank Street, and I really like having developed the, walking around, and as best I can. I think you both know I was injured last year, so I'm still limping a little bit. And I really like the little small shop local. I've really enjoyed that, getting to know the small businesses.
We love shopping local, absolutely. Let me ask you, Carol Ann, are you heading to a Zellers where the lowest price is the law?
Well, I won't put it on the top of my to-do list, but if I am in the mall, if I'm in either Saint Laurent or Rideau, I will check it out. because it's going to be, it'll be right there. And I want to see, what they're so excited about, what they're going to be promising people that will, be a little bit easier on the pocketbook. I know because people are looking for some bargains right now. And I want to see, if it'd be worth going on their website. So I'm just more curious than anything, but it won't be a destination for me. I won't go out specifically to check it out. But if I am in the mall and I pass the bay, I will go in and take a peek and see what all the hype is about.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us today on City News. A little fun reunion for us today with Timothy Walker from Tiger Lily Marketing and Carol Ann Meehan, former city councillor. Both of you have given so much back to this community as broadcasters and community members. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Oh, thank you. The invite.
Appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. When we come back, it's the business lunch. I'm invited one of my colleagues in to join us to talk all things business. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, tacos aren't only for Tuesday. I make a Mexican taco feast for a crowd.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
My name is Joel Tamas. This is Red Heaven, and we are going to be playing the Encore concert here in Ottawa. I got goosebumps just looking at the lighting and the sound, and it's very exciting to show up at a place like Shankman.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Friday, January 20. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, -2. And here's what's making news this hour. The Snow Suit Fund 50-50 has come to a successful close today. The total cash raised in the campaign was over $1,001,000. The lucky jackpot winner is Judy Bond from Nepean, who is now $500,000 richer. The other half of the proceeds will be used to buy snowsuits for kids in the Ottawa area who are in need of one this winter. With the spike in grocery store prices, many Canadian shoppers have turned to shoplifting their food, and one lawyer is offering to help. Frank Alfano is a veteran lawyer in the provincial capital, and he says he is ready to help defend anyone arrested for stealing food pro bono. That means free. His firm's Instagram page posted an image of someone stealing food with the text, "We defend anyone arrested for shoplifting food from the grocery stores for free." He added, you do not deserve a criminal record because you wanted to feed yourself or your family. In Canada, shoplifting charges are generally classified as theft under $5,000, a felony offense that has a conviction and carries a prison sentence of up to 2 years. And Canada wants to get in on the commercial space race. Transport Minister Omar Al-Gabra announced today that the feds will develop the regulatory requirements, safety standards and licensing conditions necessary to authorize commercial satellite space launches from Canada within 3 years. At the Canadian Space Agency headquarters in Quebec, Al-Gabra told reporters that Canada is ready to approve launches in the interim on a case-by-case basis and invited private companies to pitch ideas. City News time is 12:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. I'm Sam Laprade, and it is the business lunch. And I looked in the newsroom today and I thought, you know who we need to have on the business lunch today? That's the one and only, my friend, my colleague, Anil Jolly joins me now. Hi, Anil.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. You have a very important role here. You're the City News web editor. You keep us digitally going. You provide this awesome, every single day, this awesome review of the news that comes right into our mailboxes. And I appreciate it. Even though I'm here for 3 hours a day, I still love it.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. Yeah,
very much.
We keep our readers and our listeners informed the best we can. So we appreciate all the support.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little business, because this week has been actually big in the world of business here in Ottawa. We know that Zellers, the lowest price is the law,
every day,
is coming back to Canada. It's been gone for about a decade. A lot of people miss Zellers. Did you shop at Zellers when you were younger?
Yes, the one in Bayshore. I frequented a lot.
That's right. I forgot there was a Bayshore
location. Was there one in Carlingwood too?
I'm not sure about Carlingwood. I'm not sure. I should know that because I spent a lot of time at Carlingwood. There might have been one at Carlingwood. I always went to the one, there was one in Bell's Corners.
Yes, the one.
And there was one on Maryville Road. So those were kind of my hot spots.
I always went to the one in Bayshore, yes. Yes, I remember.
So there's a lot of hype about Zellers. I mean, it's coming to Saint Laurent, to Rideau Centre, inside those HBC stores, those Hudson's Bay companies. Do you think the hype is going to meet reality?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest, Sam, because when I first read the news, I was a little confused because we know, Bay has a lot of, high-end kind of other things going on, and the Zellers brand, it's a lot of, lower prices discounted. So I was a little bit confused as to the connection and relation, but I think, like anything, that people are nostalgic about Zellers, and I can definitely see it causing, a popularity and surge and people going to see what the big hoopla is, to be honest.
Did you ever eat there
at the restaurant? I can't remember, to be honest, but
So it's so funny because I've been talking about Zellers all week. So I've had a few people reach out. Okay, Sam, I want to meet you there for a hot chicken sandwich, and like people are like reaching out to me. I think it's really funny. The restaurant was it was almost like a store cafeteria.
Yeah.
It was kind of and so people are very nostalgic about the restaurant.
Yeah,
so funny.
We'll have to see what happens, but it'll be interesting for sure. I think, like with anything new that comes or anything new that comes back, there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of word of mouth and anticipation, and people are going to check it out and see what's going on. Absolutely.
My heart is still sad about when Target came to Canada, because I have a friend by the name of Beth Mitchell. Beth and I used to go when our kids were really, really little, like babies. We used to go to the States and shop for the babies at Target. We used to love doing that. And I remember her phone call, Sam, Target is coming. Target's coming to Canada. So we were very, very excited. And we went together for the first time. And it was lunch bag letdown. Like, I remember going, this isn't the Target of the States.
No.
So it's funny how we become sort of hyped up about these things, and it may not live to tell the day.
Yeah, I remember Target too. I remember when it first opened, and the few times that I've been there, the shelves were always empty, and it just didn't seem like they were into restocking things or making sure everything was full. So I didn't understand what the big hoopla was, to be honest.
Yeah,
but,
no, I didn't either. Lots of news as well this week around the McDonald's on Rideau Street near the Rideau Centre. We know our mayor, Mark Sutcliffe, was talking a little bit about this earlier today in regards to a potential resource centre in the Byward Market, because it has been a challenging time down there. Here's what our mayor had to say.
I still like the idea of having some type of resource center in the Byward Market that would include social services and the Ottawa Police Service. so that there's resources that are close by in times of crisis.
And, it's always interesting. He was speaking with, of course, our friend and colleague, Rob Snow, a little bit earlier today, and they were having this discussion because Rob said, wow, this McDonald's isn't going to be there anymore. Is this a good place for that resource center? But I think that is such prime property. There's other places, and the mayor said that as well, other places for that resource center. But McDonald's leaving that area, I have to say, is probably a decade too late.
Oh, yeah. We know that the history behind, some of the things that have gone on in that McDonald's, the raccoon incident, and it just seemed as every time you pass by that McDonald's, something was always going on. It just seemed like it was always busy, but I honestly don't know if it was busy with people buying stuff or just, using the washroom or just seeking shelter or things like that. So it will be interesting to see what happens with it. But you're right, Sam. You have to feel bad for the people that work there too.
Oh, I thought about them a lot.
And just what they had to deal with late night people coming from the bars and the clubs and things like that, having to deal with that. So, I can't imagine what they had to deal with.
Did you ever go clubbing downtown?
I cannot confirm or deny that, Sam. Yes.
I'm asking because I did. I was hip at one point.
I was fun at one point when I was a little younger. Yes, and. We passed by that McDonald's and would see things going on. But yes, I used to.
I used to go to I'm really dating myself now, but I used to go to somewhere called On Tap.
Oh.
Which was a million years ago. And it was at Rito and Dalhousie, I believe.
Yes, it was. Yes. I've been there. I know what you're talking about. Yes. Yes.
Well, there you go. See, I got it out of you, kind of in a roundabout way. But that downtown area, when I think back to, let's just be honest, it was 30 years ago for me, we didn't feel, I don't remember feeling unsafe walking around downtown. And I felt a little bit unsafe, I'll be honest with you. I love the city. No one loves the city more than I do. But I did feel a little bit unsafe this year because my daughter and I went to see the Bare Naked Ladies. You know all about that.
Yes.
At the NAC. And we were walking around downtown, and there was a little bit of, and maybe it's just my age or something, and maybe the fact I had my daughter with me, but I did feel a little bit more sort of uneasy about walking in the market. So I'm hoping that, changes like this are only positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been talked about too during Mayor Sutcliffe's campaign about bringing additional resources to the downtown area. So it'll be interesting to see the direction it goes. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we know that Wellington Street, of course, right in front of Parliament Hill, has been an area that's been talked about more than anything, I think, in the last year, especially as the convoy was heading our way this time last year. We started talking about the convoy, and we see the result of that is... certainly from a tourism perspective, even being a resident, it's just heartbreaking to be down there and see what's left of that area. We know Mayor Mark Sutcliffe is very determined to actually do something with that. Let's move, because the motion to have that closed ended on December the 31st of 2022. We know Federal Minister Mona Fortier is saying, well, we've got to study this. We have to figure out what's going on here. But it is Ottawa's property.
Yeah.
It is Ottawa's street. What are you hearing?
What am I hearing? Well, Sam, it's an interesting debate. It's an interesting topic. As you said, the bylaw expired December of last year, right? So, and there is an opportunity right now, especially with federal government employees going back to work, going back to the office. So, adding additional traffic woes to that downtown core. And Councillor Tierney said it earlier today. There's just an opportunity to have that perfectly usable road that could help with some of those traffic woes and that traffic. So it'll be interesting to see, and you have to feel for those businesses too that aren't getting the flow that they would normally see, especially in such a touristy spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was closed because of the convoy. But now, until we get, what's happening between the feds and the city, until all those discussions are still taking place, we can't wait. We need to have a solution now to see what will happen.
100%. And we're always hearing about businesses that of course, have been around for a long time and they decide to close their doors. We heard the sad news today that Nettleton's Jewelry has decided to close their door after over a century in this community. How did you take the news?
Well, here's a funny story, Sam, and I'll tell you quickly. So my family used to own a shop in the Westgate Shopping Center.
Okay.
And my family actually knows the Nettleton family very well. So when I heard, I was pretty sad because we used to get our watches and stuff fixed there all the time. I remember going there and just talking to them and getting. So yeah, I was sad because they're a really nice family. It's a family run business. So it's always sad to see when a family run business it closes and is no longer there because they've worked so hard to establish a name and things like that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it was pretty hard to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wish them all the best and serving this community for over a century. I really appreciate that. Thank you, and I appreciate you.
Thank you,
Anil Jolly. Here.
Thank you.
Taking time away from, of course, as the web editor here at City News, taking time away from his digital duties to come on in here and spend time with us on Rogers TV and City News. Thank you so much. When we come back, we're going to talk a little wine, a little chocolate. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, if you're looking to become more energy efficient, we're going to introduce you to a local company that manufactures solar blinds. That's right, they manufacture it right here in Ottawa. Also, the Ottawa Home and Remodeling Show is coming up this weekend. We're going to introduce you to one of the presenters. There's so many incredible presenters this year, and this guest is going to wow you. We'll also tell you, if you're interested in singing, we'll introduce you to a local choral group.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Hey, I'm Ash Ravens. I'm a singer-songwriter in Ottawa, Canada. I'm performing this week on Encore Ottawa 3, so please be sure to tune in and hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it is the business lunch. We like talking about all things business, and today we're going to talk a little wine, a little chocolate. We've invited into the business lunch today Debbie Trenholm, owner of Savvy Company. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, it's great to see you and have this time over lunch talking about red wine and chocolate.
Absolutely. I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing with you, Debbie. And we've invited as well to join us Mark Pister from Fogler Winery. How are you, Mark?
I'm great. Yeah, awesome to be here. It's a wonderful topic.
So, Mark, tell me, why does red wine and chocolate go together so beautifully?
I think there are a number of reasons. Both are just great in general, chocolate by itself or red wine by itself. Sort of change your mood and elevate. And when you put them together, there's a combination of flavors and of tastes that sort of enhance each other. So red wine becomes fruitier and softer, and chocolates become more expressive and more intense in their flavor. And it just because of their sort of natural chemistry that all of this stuff works out.
Well, that's fantastic. And Debbie, I know you're obviously no stranger to great wine, and you've paired these things together at a great event. Tell us all about it.
Well, virtual events are fantastic for those wintry nights, and why not sip red wine, Ontario red wine especially, and nibble on Canadian gourmet chocolate while you're in your comfy cozies or by the fireside at home. And so we are hosting this virtual event. It's our third time doing this, and I hand-selected the winemakers as well as the chocolate makers to join us online. And like what you just heard, Mark is one of the featured winemakers, and he will teach you a little bit more and give you his personal impressions on pairing wine with his chocolate. And it's a really great learning experience, and it's also a fun night in.
And tell us what we're going to learn, Mark.
Well, I hope that everyone sort of gets that experience that not all food and wine experiences are perfect, but oftentimes you could be super successful with chocolate. But the fact is that there are some food and wine experiences where when you try it, both the food gets better and the wine gets better. And what I want to talk about is how do we use our senses to really investigate what our response is. So you become a little bit more in tune with your own personal appreciation of those sensory experiences. And then obviously talk about Ontario wines, the great wines that we make in Ontario, and a lot about the sort of energy and what goes into producing the wines that they're going to be tasting.
And what I love about this event, Debbie, the Red Wine and Chocolate Extravaganza, is it's kind of a prequel to Valentine's Day, which is just around the corner. So give us all the deets on the event and how we can participate.
So it's going to take place next Saturday. So that is the 28th of January. At 7 o'clock is the time to join us. We also have J.W. Jones, and his trio is going to be providing the music throughout. So it's not just a whole bunch of talking heads, but we also have the opportunity to listen to some great local music and probably get you up dancing in your living room.
There you go.
And you can go up onto Savvy Company's new website to order, savvycompany.ca, and place in your order. We are shipping out all of the party boxes this coming week, and it will be filled with 3 different Ontario red wines. One of them will be Mark's red wine. And then 4 different chocolate makers are supplying the chocolate that people can pair with those wines. They can drink all 3 bottles of wine over the course of the event, or just a couple.
Well, there you go. That's a nice part about staying at home too, Debbie, right? I mean, it's safe.
It is safe, and with the winter weather, why chance it? Mm-hmm. And it's a nice evening in.
Well, that's wonderful. Mark, tell me how you got going in terms of your winery.
Yeah, so I'm a virtual winery, meaning I don't have a bricks and mortar place, but sort of the generosity and through some really great relationships, I've been allowed to focus on some of my own products. I work with other wineries here in Ontario doing winemaking, but my brand is out of a passion for 2 grape varietals, really, Cabernet Franc and Riesling. that's where the focus is, and I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and put some great wines into bottle.
That's fantastic, and of course Valentine's Day is coming up, and I'm thinking, Debbie, you'd be one to kind of get that creative gift from as well, aside from this great event. But the subscription model that you were way ahead of everyone else before the pandemic, Debbie, doing this kind of work, and it might be a nice gift for a loved one.
It's certainly, whether you enjoy this event, and we hope that your listeners will consider joining us for it, it certainly gives you a taste of receiving wines and how easy it is. And I have to mention, all of these wines are not available at the LCBO. So our sommeliers have curated special wines from Ontario that are really interesting and high quality wines. Also have organized for the winemakers, and then done the same thing on the chocolate side of things. Have personal relationships with the chocolate makers, and they've gone to great lengths to pair and create their chocolates to pair with red wines. And then it's about opening up the box, joining us on Zoom, and then discovering and experimenting. Not one chocolate goes with one wine that's in the box, but certainly it's an opportunity to try a bunch of different flavors and sensations and experiences, like what Mark was just explaining.
Well, how fun is that? Thank you both for sharing today, and I'm sure you've inspired someone today to sign up and do something unique. Next Saturday, Debbie Trenholm joining us today, Owner Savvy Company, talking about that red wine and chocolate extravaganza. And joining her, Mark Pister from Fogelar Winery. Thank you so much both for spending time with us on City News.
Awesome. Thanks a million, Sam, for having us on.
Appreciate you joining us. And we wanted to spend some time as well talking about something I had never heard of before, which is one of the things I love so much about the business lunch. We're spending time today with April Hickey, co-founder and chief growth officer, which I love that title, of Toast. How are you, April?
I'm good, Sam. How are you today?
Good. Okay, so first of all, before I ask you anything about the company, why that title? I love it so much.
Toast was a kind of a play on words of toasting your 9-to-5 goodbye, as well as get that bread. Bread is a bit of a slang word for money, so we want to make sure women are getting paid what they're worth.
Well, very creative, and of course, that's a hot topic for me. So let's dive right in. Tell us all about Toast. Why did you create it?
Well, after years, my co-founder and I had spent in tech, not really talking about our salary. And then once we actually started diving into it a little bit, realizing that women are hugely underpaid, we realized that it was a problem that we really wanted to solve.
And how are you solving it? What are the steps, April?
Yeah, so we created Toast. We have two pieces of Toast. We have a membership on the front end where we wanted a community where women could get together, have conversations, be transparent, and support each other as we navigate, a really male-dominated industry. So we created this community. We have Slack channels and resources and job hunt tools, workshops, and we created that on our front end. And on the back end, we wanted to pair with organizations that supported gender diversity and created great spaces for women to work. We know that there's a lot of organizations out there that claim to have these great D&I packages and they have flashy websites, but you get in there, it's not really a great place to work for women. So we've been digging into organizations across the country to look at what are their gender diversity targets? What do they do to support women? Do they have flexible work? Is it a great place for a mom to work? I have 2 kids myself. So we're very picky on where we would place women into organizations.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm reading here that you have a system that candidates will build a digital profile that strips out name, photo, and any other details that could bias a hiring committee from choosing to interview somebody. So the employer names are replaced with things like Big Four firm or startup, that kind of thing. Even university and college names are stripped. Why are you doing this, April?
I found that when, we have had a lot of conversations with organizations that don't realize the bias that's innately in hiring practices. And then as we started speaking with candidates, candidates who have foreign work experience found it really difficult to get hired because of that bias that we have. And introducing, the names of universities also introduces bias around socioeconomic class. And so we thought we would provide all the information needed for a company to decide if they wanted to have an interview with a candidate while attempting to remove those innate biases that are deep within us. So I know, we all have bias. We don't recognize that we have it. There is a really great Harvard tool assessment that they've got open on recognizing your own biases. I recommend taking it, Sam. It's very eye-opening. I saw some biases that I don't want to share in myself. But it's, we're really attempting to get women in the door without, those biases, again, that are deeply ingrained into us here in Canada.
Wow, amazing. Well, we're talking a little toast on the business lunch. I love it so much. April, how can people find out more details? They're heading to your website.
Yes, trytoast.ca is where you would go find us. We'd love to have people sign up. Right now, we do have a 30-day free trial. So if people just want to come, subscribe, and check us out, see what it's about, join the community. We actually have a decent community in Ottawa. I think it's today. Yeah, today's the 20th. The women that we have already that are members in Ottawa, we're meeting in person. So we'd love to have more people join them. Yeah, which is great. I got a lot of family in Cornwall, so wanted to give a little shout out to my cousin Jenna quickly because I know she's listening today. But, there's a lot of tech happening in Ottawa right now, so we would love to have more members come and join us.
Well, thank you so much, April Hickey, joining us today, co-founder and Chief Growth Officer, my new favorite title. And she's with Toast. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, it's been a very, very busy day here at City News. We are so proud that this community has supported the Snowsuit Fund to the tune of $1 million. That Snowsuit Fund 50/50 reached just over $1 million at 8:30 this morning. That draw took place around 9 o'clock this morning. And the winner, Judy Bond, is leaving with $500,000, which is incredible. And of course, the Snowsuit Fund is receiving $500,000, which means lots of great snowsuits. It has been a pleasure and an honor to work with this entire team at Rogers Radio to make that a reality. We are a small but mighty team, but to see the results of that 50/50 draw, we look like a big, huge team.